Today I want to talk about a topic that I don't think gets enough coverage when people are thinking about what matters to them in their next job and how they're going to select that job. And I'm talking here about the kind of criteria that we all tend to focus on. Things like the actual job, unsurprisingly, but also, the company, the sector, the salary package. These are all issues that I think we're all very used to thinking about and used to assessing. One of the areas that I think probably we're all perhaps a bit guilty of underestimating is the importance of who we're going to report into. I'm going to put that in a very colloquial sense of who the manager is going to be. Now, obviously, that may not be someone that's called a manager, but just to use that sense of who you're reporting into most directly. It's a massively important issue, and it's one that we tend to really know is important when we're actually doing a job, because we're physically working with and engaging with and dealing with that person who is our manager, however we define that. And so it's very, very clear to us then that it's a really important factor. Sometimes it's one of those things that we don't perhaps spend enough time thinking about before we actually accept a job, when we're going through that interview process, that hiring process, that assessment of our options and which one should I go for process. And it is difficult, of course, because it's pretty hard to gauge in an interview perhaps how someone is going to be with you, day in, day out. But I guess, to be fair, they're doing that with you. They're also going to have to sort of back their own feelings and their hunch around you, based off what is a comparatively short amount of time frame, i.e., 2 or 3 hours perhaps of interviewing. So in a sense, you have to do the same. You have to sort of go with as much of a feeling that you can generate, but it's not just about feeling, but about good questioning. Asking them very directly, what's your management style? How do you want to manage me? What would you need from me? You've got to try and figure out what that person's going to be like. So if you get that right, if you get someone who genuinely invests in you, who's genuinely focused on stretching and developing you and teaching you and guiding you, then that really makes a massive, massive difference to what's going to happen to you in the next, 1, 2, 3 years with that company. And if that's kind of sometimes hard to really think about, maybe envisage the alternative situation where you get someone, and it doesn't mean they have to be a horror boss, doesn't mean they have to be awful and dreadful in that kind of caricatured way. They could be a perfectly reasonable person who you don't mind spending some time with, and they're not too bad. But if they are someone who doesn't really invest in you and doesn't seem to really think about how they can develop your skills and your understandings, then there is that risk that a year or two kind of passes by, and it's not unpleasant, but have you necessarily got what you really wanted from that? So it is a big deal. It tends to only be recognised as a big deal often when it's a bit too late. But I think if you can build that into your considerations when you're interviewing, so just as you would think about what's this company like, or what's this sector like, and yes, is this salary package going to be one that I'm happy with? Be very, very forceful in your own mind about the interviewer, the manager. Is he or she going to be someone that I'm really going to enjoy working with, but also going to gain something from? And if you get that right, then I think it makes your work life and your career much, much more beneficial for you than otherwise it might be. So good luck with having a bit of a think about how you assess that issue. Cheers.